With poetry in my mind, I flex, flip like Wilson, vocals never lacking that finesse. What do I do? What do I got to do to wake you up, to shake you up, to break the structure up? That's Wake Up by the great Rage Against the Machine. Happy Friday, everybody. This is IOU, Industry Outlaws United. I'm your host, Brandon E. Brooks. The man in the box next to me is the man with the Indie Escape Plan, Joe Ridgely. How are you this week? How are you, Joe?
Man, let me tell you, I feel a whole lot better than I have for the past month. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited about your guest. I'm ready to roll with it, man.
Awesome. And I'm glad that you are out of the eye of the storm. We want to give a shout out to our pal JW, who has power out, but we got word that they're safe and sound, him and his family. So, and to everybody in those areas that were devastated, we send our thoughts and prayers out to all of you in Florida.
Terry, Amy, everybody else. Yes, definitely. Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people are down here in Florida right now with, doing films and everything.
Yeah, it's a hotbed, just like, a lot of those areas down there in the Carolinas, Georgia, obviously. And like I said, we just want to give our shout out to all those that are devastated, because that's just horrible. Some of the stuff I saw in the news. And so we're everybody's in our prayers. So any other news about the network upcoming, Joe? I know that you have some stuff coming up. You have an event on October 1st.
October 1st. Actually, It got bumped to October 8th. And that would be, we're calling it Halloween. As some of you know, I was on the set of Terry Gerald's new movie that's coming out shortly, Harlow's Han. We were hanging out with John Dugan from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So we're going to be talking to John. We're going to be talking to Terry, who unfortunately is being covered right now. There he goes. There's Terry, and also Amy. We're going to be hanging out next Saturday night. We're going to be talking Harlow's Haunt. We're going to have the world premiere of the trailer. We're going to have live Q&A with John Dugan, and we are going to have giveaways as well.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, we'll keep an eye out for that. And I'll have some news coming up very soon, possibly next week or the week after.
No, wait a minute. You said that last week, so we're expecting something tonight.
Well, I was expecting some different news too, but we haven't got an official date yet for our premiere. There'll be in a few weeks, but the trailer is coming, and the new poster is coming for Not For Nothing. But there will be information. It'll come this week to me, and then I will definitely share that information about when we'll have a special where we'll get to unveil it, and we'll have some of the cast and crew on to talk about.
Hey, if you can hit for a second what Tim's doing this month.
Yes. On twice this month. Like, he's going to have a couple cult classic films, film cast and crew Q&As that are going to be really dope. So we'll keep an eye out for those. I believe they're the second and the third week of October, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Our guy Tim Melican.
Full panels.
Yes, full panels. Yes, it's some really cool icons on those panels too that everybody's going to be excited about. But speaking of a great film professional that we have in the green room tonight, can we please play our tribute video for tonight's guest?
Yes, sir. You know, it's really cool seeing all the familiar faces in that have been on the network across different shows and everything.
Yes. Very
That's
true.
amazing.
Very true. Absolutely. All right. Well, without further ado, welcome to the Indie Escape Network and IOU tonight. Not actor, director, producer, writer, Anthony C. Ferrante.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, Anthony? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
A little walk down memory lane there.
I know, it's kind of crazy.
That's awesome. Hey, man, there was a lot more. Like, it's just not always easy to find high definition pictures for everything. But yeah, appreciate you spending some time with us tonight.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Thanks you guys for having me.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, so I always like to start with my guest with the simple, like, tell our audience like where you were born and raised, and tell us if at an early age your family and friends knew that you were destined for where you're at today.
I grew up in a small town in Northern California called Antioch. Not a lot of access to filmmaking things. So I kind of had to find my own way. I remember when I was in 6th grade, I was sitting on the playground and decided I wanted to make movies. I was looking at the movies I was going to go see that weekend, and it just popped in my skull. And not having availability of cameras, I just started writing movie reviews and started doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then
Cool.
and then I did that for my class papers, and continued to do it for the local paper, and started writing for other magazines after that. So I used that as sort of the entree to understand things, and I managed to convince some studios to invite me to junkets, which I was pretty ballsy for a teenager, but I got it. And then I when I was in high school, the community college was doing a film course, and they made an exception to let me in, and I started doing my stuff. I think the first thing I did, I shot on Super 8. So that was kind of, they, they had access to video equipment, but they're going, no, we're going to do Super 8. I'm going, okay, cool. And we did.
So what were growing up, what were some of your favorite movies and like actors to watch?
I was a horror guy. I was always a horror guy, so I mean, I would watch up in Northern California. We had something called Creature Features, which with John Stanley, and then I think Bob Wilkins was prior to that. Watched all the black and white stuff, watched all the current stuff. Carpenter was a big influence, I think, for all of us. I mean, yes. Carpenter is just like the Holy Grail. And, Cronenberg, Val Lewton, those old movies from the late 40s, early 50s, just, incredible. So my mom used to love horror. So I think I got that from her.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, what was the first film that you ever shot? Because I saw that was something that I saw in it. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, the first thing I ever shot, I think, was the Super 8 thing, which was basically a parody of a Friday the 13th movie with a gym bag killer. So there was this killer gym bag. It was absolutely ridiculous, and then after that, I did a horror film. I tried to do a horror film, like 15 minutes. It was called Eyes of the Night Wind. And then I was inspired by Mystery Science Theater 3000, and we decided to go out and shoot, because I wanted to do a karate movie, but I wanted to dub everything. So we went out and shot all this unrelated footage, and then I sat and cut it together, and then we added a story and dialogue in post. So weirdly, it was like a great exercise, because it taught me about how to create things out of nothing.
Oh, great! That was oh man, does that still exist?
Yeah, I have all the stuff still on video. I need to probably transfer it before it starts degrading.
That would be great.
There's a lot of stuff that we did. We did a lot of strange, crazy things. I did a 45-minute horror movie, which was technically a sequel to Eyes of the Night Wind, called Curse the Night Wind, which was very ambitious with a lot of makeup effects, and it took us a long time to do. And then I actually shot a 16mm project when I moved down to Los Angeles. I got access to some money in 16mm camera, and the community college wanted to show students how to, at the college I went to, how to make films. So they made me a sort of a guinea pig, and I was able to do something. And it was sort of a satire on religion called God Talk. But that thing actually had because I was doing journalism for Fangoria. I had people on the radio that was playing Carpenter, Cronenberg, John Landis, Joe Dante, and uncredited as the narrator, is somebody that people might know from a certain horror movie franchise that Sam Raimi did. So, uh,
Ah.
uh, so that was another kind of step in the right direction of learning how to make movies and use your resources.
Okay, okay, that's very cool. So did that early like journalism stuff, like for when you were a teenager, did that set up how you ended up were editor in chief for Cinescape magazine?
Yeah, I mean, the journalism was I was always trying to do movies in
Just
tandem with the
yeah,
journalism.
yeah.
I started writing for Fangoria and a bunch of other magazines, a
Hmm.
lot of music magazines, Sci-Fi Universe. I was working on I wrote for a while, and then I worked for the hometown paper for years. But then Sci-Fi Universe folded, and then we were tasked with starting a online magazine with Dean Devlin called Eon Magazine, and
Oh,
that was kind of like one of the first kind of attempts to make an online magazine, and we did that in If magazine. Those eventually folded, and then I was hired to basically be editor in chief of Cinescape, which I brought all my writers over to do that.
okay. Well,
So
yeah, I used to love that magazine. Yeah, it was.
yeah,
Yeah,
we were the last run of it. We were at the tail
yeah.
end of it. Like we were the basically right when it was done. So it went into bankruptcy, and then I was involved with the publisher who decided to buy it, and I think we ran it for another 3 or 4 years after that. And then
Well,
Trent was dying anyway at that point.
okay. So so acting is also on your resume, which I wasn't really familiar with, but I mentioned to you in the green room beforehand that I went in my research this week a little bit more about you. I didn't realize that you were an EP on the Scarecrow films that
Yeah,
you
and
did.
I do not consider myself an actor. I'm not a director who secretly wants to be an actor.
You know, the
You
M Night Gene.
No, 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 no. Usually, if I'm in a movie, it's by default. And Scarecrow was directed by a friend of mine, Emmanuel
Yeah.
Itier, and I did all the special makeup effects and did second unit on that. And they needed someone to do that role, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And ironically enough, Skylar Caleb was in the scene with me. I just did a film that Skylar we co-wrote, and he's one of the stars in, which is Nick. So
Mhm.
everything kind of comes around
It
full
comes full
circle.
circle.
And
Yeah,
then the
go ahead, please.
Sharknado movies, I popped up in them, but that sort of became more of a joke as well. It wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't really an intentional thing.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, like as I was mentioning to you in the green room, like that's where I came to know Tiffany Shepis, that
Yeah,
film, and then I started following her independent films from there with all the different ones she did with Rolf Konevsky and different people. But yeah, that film is where it started, and then I met her at a convention. I believe it was a Chiller Theater, and yeah, but it all came from that. But I didn't know that you had ties to that till I happened to look down your resume, and it was
I've
like,
known Tiffany for a very, very long time.
yeah,
She's
it was.
fantastic.
Yeah,
She got to be in Sharknado too, which was
yeah,
great.
exactly. Like you said, how things come full circle, and that you and so what is on a deeper level, just to, like not about specific films. What is your directing process? How do you start going about? Obviously, it starts for you on some projects in the writing process, but what do you do as a director when when you get an assignment or your own work? How do you break down things for an audience of aspiring filmmakers out there?
Well, I mean, first of all, just as a director, I have to like the concept or like what's there, and so it has to kind of spark, ideas. Like, okay, I can do this, or this is
Yeah,
something that interests me. I don't want to just put something out there because, oh, well, someone wants me to do a movie about filleting people, or it's like maybe that's
yeah,
not something I really necessarily want to do. So it's
yeah,
all about finding that hook. For Boo, that was my first film. I wrote and
yeah,
directed it. There's a lot of visuals and stuff that, I had kind of planned in my head of how I wanted to do it. It was written actually around the location we surprisingly shot at when we finally made the film. But you kind of go in and you try to find the anchor. And I have being a journalist and being a fan, I have a repository of genre knowledge. What's worked and what hasn't.
yeah,
From the past. And so, you try to zig and zag and try to do your own thing and bring your own flavor to the movies. I think, I think the first couple of movies I'd call, and this is no disrespect to them, kind of kid in a van movies. Kids go someplace and horrible things
yeah,
happen. And then as things started progressing, I wanted to dig a little deeper and, really try to, find more characters that were a little more in depth to it. And so now when I approach films and stuff, it's like, well, what is this about with the character, and what is this meaning, and and what is the scene about? Because every scene should have a purpose in a movie. A lot of times, when you get scripts, it's like, oh, hey, how's it going, Bob? Bob, oh, I'm doing great. Hey, well, I like cheese. Great. You like cheese too. And like, well, then that scene's going to get cut from the movie because it's really not about anything. And so, I start looking at things more from the character perspective, and what are we trying to tell there? And I also really, and I've always enjoyed this part of it, is finding the things in between the lines with the characters and the actors.
Yes.
I think as a journalist, I think one of the things that was helpful as a journalist is that I interviewed a lot of celebrities and a lot of filmmakers. And so as a filmmaker, I'm not really afraid of actors. I mean, I think on my first movie, when Dee was there, I was for like 2 seconds, I was like, oh my gosh, all my favorite filmmakers have directed her. And then after that, she was just Dee, and we were just a director and an actress working together. And I think that's kind of important, being able to learn how to talk to actors and also understand what the crew does. Because sometimes filmmakers come out of film school not really fully understanding that it's a team effort. Everybody has to work together to kind of get to that goal, and you need to know it takes this amount of time to set someone up in costumes or makeup effects or this or that.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. I mean, I've been on sets as an actor and even just in different positions on the crew, and I'll see some first time or second time directors that are so enamored by the resume of the name actor that comes on set that anything they do is okay. And I'm just like, and if I'm an AD or something, I'm like, yeah, that he even knows that it wasn't a good take. We should go again. Oh, and it's like they're almost afraid sometimes to. Oh, and I'm like, no, they're going to respect you if you got to do it 6 times to get it right. That's what you got to do. So yeah, that's great advice there, to like almost, like I said, these are actors that I remember working with Tony Todd years ago, and he came up to me. He's like, look, if you don't tell me something's off, I'm going to come out. And I see it when I sit in the theater, I'm coming to look for you. He's like, so he was serious. He's like, don't just tell me it's because I'm Candyman. Like, just tell me if the take's not right, or you wanted me to do it 10 more times, then we're going to do it to get it right. And I respected that, because again, that's how it should be. Like, it should be actor and director, like you said with D. So yeah.
The other piece of advice I always say is coverage over takes. I think sometimes people get enamored with, oh, I've got to do 10 master shots, and really your movie's going to live in the medium and close up. So get your master and fail at the master. Like if everything's not right or perfect, then clean it up in the medium and the close up. I've always, even when I was doing short films, I was editing my own stuff because I didn't have access to an editor. And then when I had an editor, that was great. But in the last 4 or 5 years, I've taken a bigger hand as an editor on my projects, because it starts getting kind of annoying just going, sitting in a room going, do this, do that. You want to go in and play and do that. So but that being, I think for filmmakers, editing is important, because then you understand really what you need, and you catalog, like when you were struggling in the edit, like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have just gotten that. And you would have gotten that if you didn't do 4 masters.
Very true.
And inserts. Always get your inserts on set.
Get your inserts, yes. I don't know how many times I've seen people, I didn't get that insert, or the card hitting the table or whatever. And again, sometimes you don't have the ability to go back, like with funding or pickup days or whatever. So another good advice. So when you said that about changing up, like after you did your first couple films, and then kind of finding interesting characters, is that why you delved into the Brothers Grimm, Hansel and Gretel story, to tell a little bit different type of a story?
That was offered to me after I done Headless Horseman, and then I did a bunch of writing for Sci-Fi, which just to kind of get better as a writer. And so I did maybe 3 or 4 films for them. And Hansel and Gretel was offered, and I worked with Jose on that. There wasn't a lot of time, and we really kind of dug under the hood to try to figure out what it was about, which was thematically, it was about hunger, and every character having something to do with hunger. They did want to have something that did veer into that you know, hostile kind of territory, which,
Yeah.
you know, that's not my first inclination. So I tried to find my way into it, which was making it more fantasy. And
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's what we did with it. Dee
Yeah.
was in that, and Dee
Yeah.
did a great job. And I recently watched that. And I'm still really impressed by that movie because
Yeah. No.
it's a weird, quirky, strange horror movie.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. It's not like the other ones that I've saw that it kind of had something that had a different voice, which again is your voice. So, but I've watched some of the other like stories around that topic that didn't have as much to say. This one, even though they call it a mockbuster, but it was different. So for me,
Yeah.
I found it more interesting, like just kind of going the way you went with it. So
Yeah, and I was also we did a lot of really amazing makeup effects on that. Greg Leitner did all our stuff on that, and it's just I forgot how much blood we spilled.
yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, I revisited it recently, and I was like, okay, this is I didn't even remember it. I mean, when it came out, I'd seen it, but I revisited it recently, and I was like, wow, this is a lot more gory than I remembered. So yeah, so 2013, the phenomenon that kind of was released during that summer. I remember being in New York for an audition, and there was a line around. I forget where it was, but I thought it was for some like big juggernaut movie that was a blockbuster that would come out, and then somebody says, "No, it's the shark movie," and I was like, "What do you mean shark movie?" And I hadn't heard about it yet, and then they come to find out that that's the summer. It was around June or July. It was sometime around that time.
Yeah.
And that Sharknado was released. So where did this all come from? Like from the origins of it, and did you have any clue that it would become? Because that was a time when the Sci-Fi Channel was putting out a lot of content that was doing well for them with different pop stars and different crocodiles and alligators and different things. But did you have any? Was it designed to kind of become what it became, or was it just a juggernaut that just became a phenomenon?
Well, I mean, look, you make movies and you hope you find an audience, and that's really the thing. Being a journalist, you see movies come and go. So as a filmmaker, the only thing that you can do is try to make the best movie you can, or the most interesting movie, or the craziest movie, and hope that it's discovered. And Boo was a movie that kind of was written off, and it did incredibly well. And it was
Yeah.
because of the marketing. The movie was entertaining. You know,
Yeah.
it was a long player. It did well on video. It got picked up by Sci-Fi. I think it was the highest rated movie that when it aired. And then it just continued they kept selling it in foreign markets and stuff over a long period of time. So with Sharknado, it's actually started life when I was doing a lot of writing for different companies for Sci-Fi, where they would come to you and go, here, come up with a pitch for 5 different types of Banshee movies, or 5 different Leprechaun movies, or whatever it was. And so I was the horror guy, and at one point they needed some stuff, and Jacob Hare, who had written stuff before, and Jake now is a director over at Rick and Morty, I was going, let's come up with 2 of the most ridiculous ideas, and one of them was Lava Birds, and the other one was Sharknado. So we pitched it twice through the different companies that do these movies, and nothing happened with it. So we just kept going. We love this title. It made us laugh. And so we kept trying to find a way to kind of develop it on our own. And then I did Hansel and Gretel with Asylum, and I had put a reference to a Sharknado in the Leprechaun Revenge movie, which I think is now called Red Clover. And Sci-Fi goes, we love that title, and told Asylum, take your Shark Storm movie and call it Sharknado. And so I saw that they were doing that. I said, well, you know, that's kind of started life over here. And then they hired me to direct it. And Jake and I always knew what the potential of that title was, because whenever we told people the title, it just tickled people's fancy. And it was also something different for me, you know, because I was a horror guy. And so we kind of refashioned, you know, that movie, kind of pushed it, you know, still structurally the same movie, but we kept pushing it in the direction that we originally saw it as, which was a little bigger and crazier. And I also knew doing something like this, look, you know, you just do this, and people don't care, or people are going to love it. So I just decided I was going to put everything into the film and hope that an audience was there. We weren't sitting there going, oh, we're going to make this cult film. I was just trying to make the best movie with the budget we had, which wasn't a big budget. You know, it was very, you know, for a big gigantic disaster movie, we were putting everything into it. And that's one of the things with the Asylum is they want to do these big things. And other companies I had worked for, it's like, oh no, you can't do this stuff because it's not possible. And Asylum's like, it's possible. Just vision, you know, believe in it and you do what you can. And so they gave me a lot of trust in trying to make this movie, and we were working on it in post for a very long time. Even though it started in January, it was like every weekend, I'm like, oh, we got to get a GoPro shot in the water with a surfboard. Oh, we got to go get this. We got to go get that, and it just was hacking away at it. And then when it was finally together, we watched the movie with all the sharks in it, which was, you know, it was probably 2 or 3 weeks before it aired, and most of the time it was missing things in the timeline. And we had a blast watching it. And I think after it was over, I said, this is probably the greatest stoner movie we've ever made. and then maybe in 5 years, it could be a cult film. Now, at the time, Sci-Fi was shuttering that division because usually, remember, they were Saturday night movies. And they were putting it on in the dead of summer, I think, on a Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so they were dumping it. and I remember like 3 or 4 days. I encouraged Asylum to put their trailer out because it made it look like a gigantic, you know, movie, and they did that. We did a music video that wrote the theme song with Robbie Riss, so we put a music video out there. And 2 or 3 days before it aired, Chris Connolly, who's one of my editors on Boo, he was the editor on Boo, called me and goes, I was in 7-Eleven and people were talking about Sharknado. I'm like, give me a break, Chris. No one's talking about Sharknado in 7-Eleven. No, seriously. I'm like, okay. Because I mean, the closest Sci-Fi's ever come to sort of a meme or something that just broke out was Sharktopus and Mansquito. So to have this thing, you know, to have Sharknado kind of break through, it's a 1 in a million. And of course, that night it broke through. And I think it was a summer where a lot of the theatrical movies were not working. And here was this free movie that sounded ridiculous. And the trailer dared you to watch it to see that if we pulled off what was in that trailer. And we pulled off more than that was in the trailer. And I think that's part of it. And we went to Comic-Con. People, you know, we were signing and people came up to us and said, thank you for making this movie because it made me happy. And so we did something. And there's people that love it. There's people that hate it. But at the end of the day, people were talking about it. And it became a 6-movie franchise, and I'm very proud of it. And our limitations were budget. You know, we had a very small time. We were doing what the studios were doing in like a 6-month period versus a 2-year period. And I think that there's a lot of energy to it. I think we shot it at places that you're not supposed to shoot at with low budgets. Like we shot in New York for the 2nd movie. We went to different countries in the 5th movie. We filmed at Kennedy Space Center and Universal Orlando, you know, in Washington. So there was a lot of great stuff that we pulled off in that movie and those movies. And it was a great experience. But no, I did not have any idea. but you know, the fans found it, and we always stayed true to the fans through all 6 movies.
Cool, very cool. So was former 90210 star Ian Ziering, was he always the hero of your story from casting in the beginning, or was it?
No one wanted to be in Sharknado.
That's
no one. I mean, they had to call the movie Dark Skies for a while to get anybody interested, and I think the first person that took the nibble was John Hurd, and then it was Tara. And then they went through the laundry list, and finally Ian took the bait. And I remember sitting with him at Jerry's Deli and talking to him about it, and he said, "I'm going to do this." And when they said Ian was interested, it was like, of course, he's the guy. Like it just made like why didn't we go to him in the beginning? He just was the perfect person to play this role, and he did a great job embodying it, and so did Tara. And you know, it was, you know, we were very fortunate, and to actually do 6 films with the same cast from beginning to end, that never happens.
That's unheard of. Yeah. It's usually someone wants a ton more money or something's different moving into multiple sequels. So you had obviously 6 films in this franchise and an unbelievable amount. I was saying that to Joe, the producer of this before. The cameos are extensive. What is your favorite cameo of all these films?
I mean, look, it's like picking babies, but I mean, I have to say that Robert Hayes, to be able to have Robert Hayes in the 2nd movie play a pilot, and we actually shot in Air Hollywood on the same plane that was, I believe it's the same plane that was an airplane. So to actually be able to do that stuff with him, and he was such a nice guy. that was one of my favorite ones. David Naughton. I love working with Olivia Newton-John. I mean, there's just so many really cool people that we had the opportunity to bring on our little journey. So it was always fun, and it was a surprise because they just packed these movies with cameos.
Yeah, it was always a hoot to me to watch the movies, and then just all of a sudden Mark Cuban pops up, and you're just like, what? It's like, and then I mean, obviously the list goes on forever, but cool. Robert Hayes obviously is a legend that doesn't get as much props as he should. So great answer. So moving away a little bit from this franchise for a little bit. Actually, I do want to ask you one more question. I saw something about a comic called Cow and Boy or something like that. Or was it? Am I right? It said it had something to do with inspiring the Sharknado premise. Is that bad intel or something? But there is a comic, and there is a comic you created that has to do with the Sharknado with Archie.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that was the third movie. That was Archie.
Film.
Yeah, that was Archie versus Sharknado. So when we were doing the third movie, we'd met Dan Parent at one of the Archie artists. I think after the first movie, and so then there was this discussion of, well, let's try to do an Archie Sharknado mashup, and it almost didn't happen. And then I think in the middle of the third movie, it was like. It was like right after we wrapped, I think it almost fell apart. And I go, can we please try to still make this happen? And they did. And so when we were in post, I was writing the Archie versus Sharknado comic, my first comic book. and I decided to make it kind of in the same timeline as Sharknado 3, but it's dealing with the Archie characters, dealing with the stuff. And the Archie people were just fantastic because since it was a one-off, you could do whatever you want. You could kill anybody, you could modify, you could do whatever you wanted to the characters because it didn't exist as canon for Archie, but it existed as canon for Sharknado. And I really wanted to make Betty and Veronica kind of like the heroines of it, and it was really fun. And I got to kill off Sabrina because she has magic, she could get rid of the sharks. So we basically had sharks eat her. So
nice, Mr. Ridgely. Question?
Well, no, I just wanted to say that's amazing. We've had Dan on the network before, and recently he was actually on a game show. So I just wanted to point that out.
Oh wow.
Very cool. So you moved away from the Sharknado and like horror comedies for a little bit, and you directed a romantic comedy I actually saw called Bows of Holly. So tell me why this move. Like, was it a change of pace? Something offered to you that was a little bit different than the norm?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I started doing is just finding different projects and stuff. I did Zombie Tidal Wave right after Sharknado. With Ian, because that was something that was set up, right after we were finishing up. But there wasn't a lot of interesting horror movies, and I was really interested in focusing on dealing with actors and focusing on the drama side of things. And I got offered a Christmas movie, and I got to, and I've always had comedy on my resume, even Sharknado definitely has humor to it, and all my films have a tiny bit of humor to it, but this was a chance to kind of just do a full-on kind of comedy, and that interested me. I always thought I was going to be the horror guy, and then I realized I'm more interested in just being a director. And with the thrillers I've done, and with Bows of Holly, and I'm actually doing a Western right now. I like that I get to mix it up because that's what keeps it interesting. Sharknado, yes, we did 6 films, but each movie was a different type of movie, that's why I kept coming back, because this time we're doing amusement park disaster movie, this time we're doing movie, this time we're doing time travel. And we had a wonderful cast with Bows of Holly, and it was really great filming that movie. And I actually just I have another Christmas movie coming up this fall, so
cool.
I'm keeping busy.
Yes, absolutely. I also
I never gave up on horror. I'm not saying that I don't miss horror. I love the genre. It's just that it's so hard to find things that haven't been done before, or try something different. And that's the hardest genre to crack.
Yeah. And it's a blessing to be able to do different things. I know even some of the other all-time great directors at different times in their career delved off. Like, didn't Wes Craven do like Music of the Heart? Like, different
Yeah.
people did different things, and it wasn't taken on as like the fans didn't like respond to it because they're so used to that. That was one of the masters of horror. But it's always cool, I think, in your career to be able to do different things. I love action films, so I would love to one day just do, like, I'd love First Blood and movies like that I grew up on. So, like, even though I do some horror stuff, like, people kind of, oh, you just do horror. And I'm like, no, I've actually written some dramas and some romantic. But again, it's just because I go to the horror conventions and do that stuff that you're just associated with. But I think it's cool to be able to be blessed to do multiple things if you can in your career.
Yeah.
So this is a weekly thing I do. It's called One Sentence or Silence. What this is, Anthony, is I throw out a name to you that you've worked with in your career, and you give me a couple words, good or bad, about the person. And if you stay silent, that means they suck. So I'm going to throw out some names to you, and then you do what you will with them. All right. So the first name I'm going to throw out to you is Richard Mall.
Oh, I loved him. Loved him on Night Court. He was really funny,
Yes.
and he gave me on Headless Horseman. I gave him one of my favorite weird lines ever, which was as a curse word, was barley nuts, which I recently reused in another movie. So yeah, barley nuts. I always remember him saying that.
Very cool. I love Bull, love Night Court. One of these days, I like to shake that man's hand. All right, another screen TV legend, David Hasselhoff.
Ah, the Hoff. Again, another person when they go, oh, David Hasselhoff playing Finn's father, of course, and he was great. I mean, doing the scene with him in the diner with Ian and stuff as playing an astronaut. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, again, these are things that are just like bucket list things. You get a chance to work with people.
Yes, yes. All right, Dolph Lundgren.
Oh yeah. For Sharknado, at the end of Sharknado 5. Yeah. Again, I think he was on set for maybe 4 hours, and
oh wow,
he was great. We got him in post to play Finn's son, now grown up through time, and yeah, it was just, you're just sitting there going, "This is Dolph Lundgren. I'm working with this man."
So Ivan Drago.
And I will say, "Hey Dolph, by the way, your co-star is this stuffed possum named Petunia." He's like, looking at us like we're crazy, but of course I am.
Stephen C. Miller.
Oh yeah, yeah. He directed Scream of the Banshee, and he did a phenomenal job with that movie. Stephen was wonderful. He did an excellent job with that. I was really, really proud. Usually, when you write scripts, you hope for a really good director to come in, and Stephen just nailed that.
Awesome. Chris Jericho.
He was great. We were up on the Universal Orlando rocket ride, multiple stories up there, and him getting attacked by fake sharks. Which being there at that point, I think started giving me a little bit more issues with heights than I normally had problems with. But yeah, Chris was fun.
Awesome. Charisma Carpenter.
You know what? She was in House of Bones, but I never spoke with her or worked with her. I had interviewed her when I was a journalist for Buffy and Angel, and she was always lovely to talk to. But as a filmmaker, I never really had direct contact with her.
Okay. How about Parker Lewis himself, Corin Nemec?
Corin Nemec. No, that's the same thing. I think that was House of Bones, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I just wrote that movie.
Oh, they wrote. Okay. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So I know this. Michael Pare.
Yes.
Yes.
Michael Pare. Huge, like any of the cruisers I love, Streets of Fire I love. The soundtracks are phenomenal. And I'd met him. He was doing a film at the Asylum, and I'd met him there. And we started talking. He goes, you got to get me in one of your movies. I'm like, of course I will. And then the film that we'll probably be talking about in a little bit, Nix, which just came out digitally. I asked him to be in the film, and he did it. He came up from Northern California and did a phenomenal job. Not a action hero role, not a villain. He just was playing just sort of a dramatic role, and he was so fantastic. And I just love it too, because I'll call him up and it's like, this is Michael, and it's Michael Pare. His voice is so iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that man.
Yeah, I got to work with him earlier this year, and you're right. Susie stepped on set. You heard the voice. I heard the voice at a distance. I just Streets of Fire, and Eddie lives. So I was like, yes. And then he comes up, Michael, and I was like, yeah. It just took me back to childhood.
We did a scene with him on the pier when we were shooting, and it's like after it was over, we're like, oh wow, this kind of sort of evokes a little bit of the boardwalk on Eddie and the Cruisers. So kind of full circle.
Vivica A. Fox.
Vivica, fantastic. She was on Sharknado 2 and 6, and she actually shares a birthday with me, so she's already good peeps in my book. And yeah, she was great. Our biggest regret was killing her off in Sharknado 2. We didn't expect to have 6 films, so it was like you had to have some stakes. And so when we were doing the time travel one, we knew we were going to bring her back. We actually were going to try to bring back John Hurd, but he had unfortunately passed the summer before we shot Sharknado 6. But we managed to kind of make it work with a double and some other stuff, some footage we didn't use in the first movie.
Okay. Gary Busey.
Gary Busey. Ha! I just remember on the set going, ha!
It's got to be a Gary Busey story.
No, I remember I'm talking about Buddy Holly, and he was singing Buddy Holly to me, and there's a really crazy story where we were rehearsing, and it was only myself, Ryan Newman, Tara, David Hasselhoff, and Gary Busey. And there was a lot of techno babble in Sharknado 4 about quantum boxes and Sharknadoes. And it was this really surreal thing where David Hasselhoff and Gary Busey were trying to get there. Gary Busey is trying to understand. I just don't understand what a quantum box is. And I would explain, but then David Hasselhoff would come in and start doing it. And Tara was being the mediator. And so Ryan, who played Tara's daughter, we stood back and we just watched this crazy conversation where Tara's explaining everything to Gary Busey and David Hasselhoff. But it was just like, and again, because of it's talking about all the weird techno babble, it was just such a surreal conversation. So I will always remember that whole moment. And finally, what I told Gary Busey, because it was just he couldn't get his head wrapped around it. I go, Gary, I got an idea. I'm going to let the camera roll for 2 long takes and say whatever you want, and then I'll figure it out in post. He's going, that's a great idea. And so he just babbled for like 10 minutes each. We cut it down to like 2 minutes, and it's some of the best stuff in that movie because it's just unfiltered Gary Buseyism.
Unfiltered Gary Buseyism. It's a perfect way to end it. All right, you made it through without staying silent. Very cool, very cool. Just want to say shout out to some of the people watching tonight. My Subsoil production partner Tim Melican said 2 great dudes. Thank you, brother.
Hey, Tim.
He said Greg Lightner does a whole lot with Full Moon. He's great. Awesome. TK Henderson from the Black Filmmakers Lounge on Saturday morning says yes, it throws them for a loop. Yes, I think that was in regards to something I said earlier. And Tim said, love Richard Mall in Metal Storm.
Yes, the destruction of Jared's sin.
Yes. Awesome. All right, so let's talk a bit about one of your latest projects, Nix, which I got to see a good portion of last night. Fantastic horror thriller. So tell us a little bit, tell the audience a little bit about the origins of it, what it's about. And then I'll ask you a little bit some more questions about the film itself.
Yeah, so the movie, like I said, I'm here to promote it. It's out on you can rent and purchase through like Apple, Amazon, Tubi, or not Tubi, Vudu, all the places you would do it. But I'd worked with the producers on that film before, Woodrow Wilson Hancock III, James Zimbardi, and Skylar Caleb on a film a few years ago called Awaken the Shadow Man. I was a producer on it, helped them get the movie in shape, and had a great experience. And they had this project. They came to me and said, look, we have this movie, would you be interested in it? And so we looked at it. We're going, okay, we think this thing could work. And we had everything set up to shoot it in April of 2020, which is right when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so basically that was going to be a no-go because it was going to be shot in Atlanta, and we didn't know much about what COVID was, and we didn't want to get stranded there. Yeah. So we kind of had to torpedo that. So we said, okay, let's continue to develop this project. And at a certain point, there was a struggle with trying to figure out this ending, and I said, well, what about this or this? And they go, yeah, that's great. And I go, well, let's redevelop it and start from scratch. And so we started talking about what could we do with it. And so as we were talking about trying to make something interesting in the horror genre, if I'm going to do something independent, we have the money. Let's make something that's challenging. You can still deliver the things that you need for a horror movie to be sellable, which is, here's a creature, here's a horror movie, here's this, here's that. But let's do something a little more personal. And so I dug up this mythology called the Nyx, which was sort of this half face in water, which I thought was a creepy image.
Yeah.
And the Nyx is sort of a water fairy. And so everything after that, the water fairy, all that stuff, that didn't work for what we wanted to do. But this image and the title, Nyx, just I thought was a striking thing. And so we talked about trauma and addiction and how people deal with that stuff. And can we wrap a movie around that? And we took a crack at it. I wrote a treatment for what this new version would be, did a pass, and then we all worked on the script once I delivered the pass. And we were all challenging each other. How can we make something that's layered and different? And again, it's a movie for us, and if people come along for the ride, great. And if it's a challenge, it's a challenge. And the end result is this really, really dark family drama, which kind of Videodrome meets Ordinary People. And I wrote the world thinking Dee would be in the film, and thank goodness she decided to be in it. But it's about a generational trauma and how do you break out of that? And at the forefront of it is obviously this creature called the Nyx that is kind of tormenting this family. And it's a very unique, strange movie, but it definitely has lineage with. It's kind of an extension of Boo, and also a thriller I did a few years ago called Forgotten Evil, which deals with sort of this kind of mind-bending kind of stuff. But really proud of the movie and how it turned out. And James Zavardi is the lead, so Skylar, and they do such a great job in the film.
Absolutely, that's what I was going to say. The cast is fantastic, some great emotion in it. I wasn't expecting as much drama and emotion, because again, when you see Nyx, a horror film, you don't always get such genuine emotion. And the young child actor too,
Nisha.
Fantastic. Yes,
fantastic. Yeah, and that's really, at the end of the day, it's her movie. It's about about the soul of this little girl, and not falling into the sins of the parents and the grandparents and all that. It's like, and she just brings so much depth to that. She's phenomenal actress. But we were fortunate, the whole cast they just nailed that movie.
Now, how long of a process was that? I mean, where did you film that at?
Well, so COVID happened that May. We developed it. So the following February, we filmed in my hometown in Northern California for a good 80% of it, and then all the wood stuff was in Northern California in a place called Shingletown, Redding area.
Okay, cool. My allergies are bothering me too, so I understand. And that's like I said.
And Vincent Quastini created an amazing creature, but like I said, it was really a chance and a challenge to do something that was off the beaten track, and and there are a lot of layers to the movie that you don't necessarily get in a horror movie. It works as a horror movie if you want a horror movie, but it doesn't do what a normal horror movie does, which is why I say it's it dares people to kind of dig under the hood a little bit with it.
Yeah. Now, with your background in effects and like all the different things you've done in your career, did you help design the look of the creature in this, or did you have did you sketch out anything even from some of your other projects, whether masks or? So I'm starting to do a lot more of that in some of my upcoming things. So I kind of make something that's different than what you see in a lot of other things. So
I can't draw worth crap, but I do have wonderful, talented people. So Jacob Hare, who we talked about before, him and I sat down, and he sketched out what ultimately became, the DNA for the Nyx, a good portion of it. We were talking about, eyes, and I like the idea of webbing with eyes. And so we got a good sketch, and then we gave it to Vincent's team to kind of make it work practically and stuff for, for the end result. But that I definitely was hands-on and trying to come up with something that I was happy with.
Awesome. So. Yeah, it looks great. All right, Danielle Martin, a good friend of mine, sneaked a peek of it over Creepy's shoulder for a couple minutes, and it looks great. Have to sit and watch the whole thing. Danielle's a friend of mine. the partner of Uncle
This is how
Creepy's.
this is how I
Yes.
draw. That's how bad my drawings are.
Hey, that's probably, I'm not a good drawer either. I kind of do the same thing. I do my little sketches like that, and then I'm better now with some of these, like taking images of different things that I've seen in my past and kind of saying, I want a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then just kind of trying to come up with something different. Because like you said, so much has been done, from going way back to Hammer films all the way up to modern day. So try to make them a bit different than what we see today. So yeah,
What,
so you definitely did a great job with Nick's. So.
yeah, and we want it to be practical. I mean, that movie is pretty much 98% practical. There's a little bit of VFX assist with some split screens and some other little tiny invisible things. There's a little bit of cleanup on the creature suit, but beyond that, it's imperceptible. And I didn't want to take people out of the movie. We could have had, I've done enough of these movies where you could have had things crawling on the walls and doing all that stuff, but it's for what I was trying to go for with this was kind of make it more of an old school movie.
Yeah.
Originally, I thought I kind of felt like it was going to have more of an 80s vibe, but after it was completed, I was watching The Exorcist, and I realized it's much more of a 70s movie. It's very deliberately paced.
Yeah.
The house is sort of a character in the movie. So it's a very 70s movie, I think.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because it lent itself to the story, so you're following it. A lot of these movies I end up watching, and all of us end up watching, it's so laden in sometimes the visual effects or who's going to get killed every 5 minutes that you lose the storytelling. And I felt like that's why Nick's worked for me, because the dramatic aspect, and you get to actually watch the good performances. You get to watch and follow the storyline, as opposed to, okay, this is going to be a bloodbath. And sometimes that takes me out of it. I mean, I say that all the time. Sometimes these VFX or again, just the need to do something every 5 minutes. The slow burn sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it works. And your film, I felt like, had great pacing, and it made me anticipate the chills. And like I said, that young actress had me, because sometimes you never can tell sometimes with young talent, like, as we all know, but she's an old soul there on screen. So
I think the thing too with Nyx is when you watch a movie in post, and you're looking for the mistakes and the errors, because you're going, okay, we got to fix that. We got to fix that sound. We got to fix that image. Oh, there's a microphone, there's all that stuff. So you're never watching it as a full movie. You're watching it to pick it apart so it can be past QC and be delivered.
yeah.
And recently I watched it just to watch the film. And I realized that for anybody that hasn't seen the movie, you don't know where it's going. Because it starts off, you go, I know exactly what this movie is. And then you're going, wait a minute, I don't know what is where's it, and then you just want to know where it's leading. And that, I think that's the biggest hat trick to pull on a horror movie, of not being able to have an audience know where it's going to end up.
And not cliche-ish.
That was what I'm most proud of with the film, is that it's very unique, because it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, but it does other things that you're surprised it did.
Yeah, well, it's true. So definitely, guys, check it out. I watched it last night on Amazon Prime, and so money well spent. Go support indie horror. Watch Nyx by the man on the screen next to me. Definitely. So Anthony, question: if you weren't a director, producer, or in the entertainment business at all, what would you be?
I'd probably be doing something with music, because music's always been a part of. We do a lot of songs for these movies, and so I mean, I don't think I would. It would always be something to do with art in some respect, because I don't have any other skills. I can't fix cars. I'm not capable of certain things. It's just not in my DNA. I've always kind of been a dreamer. So
hey, that's a good answer. It's funny. My next question was, what is Quint? Because music is obviously part of your life. So if you could speak a little bit about that with Robbie Wrist.
Yeah, well, I mean, it started off on my. I mean, I've always been in the high school bands, played different instruments, all that stuff. And on my first movie, we couldn't afford to license songs, and we couldn't license good songs. So we couldn't license things that, like if you wanted something that was blues driven, it would be really badly done blues. And Robbie is just an amazing musician, writer, performer, and probably know him. He was Cousin Oliver in the Brady Bunch. He was one of the voices of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's been around forever, and so I've been friends with him for a while. He'd done some stuff for some of my shorts, and he's just come over to my studio, and so we cranked out about 3 or 4 songs that we put in the first movie, and it sounded great, and it worked out. And the same thing kind of happened on the second movie. And then we realized that it was such a headache to license songs, and I like music so much that we just started doing it consistently for every movie after that. And initially we would change the name of the group. So the first movie was the Black and Blues Review, and then we'd say the band broke up. And then the second movie, it was Toothless Jimmy and the Applejack Kids. And then the band broke up. And then in the third one, it was the Gingerbread Men. Then the band broke up. But on Sharknado, we go, okay, well, what's the name of the band for this? So we decided Quint because of Robert Shaw's character from Jaws. And then the Ballad of Sharknado, the theme song that we wrote, did really, really well. And we'll go, well, I guess we'll just keep the name because it's better than being called Toothless Jimmy and the Applejack Kids. So if you have something that's sort of a quasi hit or whatever you want to call it in this sort of DIY kind of world, so that became the name. And so, we have a catalog now of probably, I think over 60 songs. Most of them are on Spotify. And then, so each movie, we get the chance, it gives us a chance to do something different. Nick's, we did the end title song. It's kind of an electronic song called Nothing, which is pretty catchy.
Nice. So. And it's yours, so you don't have to license. There you go.
Yeah, no.
Even though you can with budgets, but it's cool to have your own trademark on some of these projects. So.
Well, and it's also like we need something for a movie, and it's like, oh crud, we need something. Someone needs to sing something. It's like, okay, well, I know that we have this, so let's just pull that out, or let's rearrange this and put that in there. So that happened on the Western. We needed someone to be playing a guitar in the song, so we just took something that we did a few years ago and rearranged it for guitar only and changed some of the lyrics, and it's in the movie.
Nice. So I ask this to every guest, and I know you've done things in various budgets, but if budget money was no object, what project would you direct and produce?
I as much as they did the Marvel TV series, Moon Knight's always been my ideal movie. So I hope that there's multiple seasons and there's other things that come, because Moon Knight's my favorite Marvel character. I'd love to get a chance to do something with that. But there's other scripts and things that I've been wanting to do. There's a movie called The Key that we've been wanting to get made for a while, and a thing called Candy Apple Black, which was a comic book. It was a script turned into a comic book that we've been trying to get set up for many years as well. So now with the success of with Nick's, and and it's slightly off the beaten track, these other movies are off the beaten track, and so hopefully this has opened up an entree. And another one called Agony that I wanted to get made. Actually, if money was no object, the thing I would want to do is, there was someone approached me with a comic book called Faraway Canyon years ago, and we developed it as a TV series and also as a feature film. And I would love to do that as a TV series with a full budget, because it's what if the 1950s monsters still existed, and the gigantic ones, the other ones, the monsters, all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of like a weird mix of Back to the Future and 1950s weirdness. And I love the universe we created. We did a little pilot presentation, and the thing that we kept getting was, it needs to be darker. Like, it's supposed to be fun. And now I think we're getting back to a thing of, after 2 or 3 years of the pandemic, it's like people want to have a little more light bracket in their life. So maybe that'll happen at some point.
Yeah, I'm here for that. That sounds cool. Very cool. So we know Nick's is out right now, so everybody go support that. What's next for you? Directing, producing, writing, music. What's up for you next? I know you're directing different things now.
Pandemic was good in that I did a lot of projects, and then strangely they're all kind of coming out at the same time. I did a film called Time Pirates that just aired on Tubi. It just made its debut 3 weeks ago. There's this band called SM6, a group of siblings. They do this really great pop rock stuff, and they wanted to do sort of a Hard Day's Night Monkeys kind of movie designed around them. And they asked if I was interested in it, and I, haven't done anything that wacky and crazy since Sharknado. And I go, sure, and because I love the music, and And so we made this movie called Time Pirates, and we were ad-libbing, coming up with rando stuff. It kind of has a little bit of a Monty Python flavor to it at times, and it's just completely crazy. And the kids were wonderful. They did such a great job, and there's a few nods to Sharknado in there, so it's kind of meta. It's definitely one of the weirdest movies I made, but it's definitely full on crazy comedy. And then last fall, I shot back-to-back westerns. I did a Butch Cassidy and the Wild Bunch, and then Butch versus Sundance.
Nice.
And I've never thought I'd be doing a western, but I was helping develop the second movie, and I fell in love with the world that the writer Jeff Mead created, and I lobbied to direct these movies, and really proud of them. First one comes out in December on Tubi. Bruce Stern's in the film. Jeffrey Combs plays Pinkerton detective Charles Siringo, and I've known Jeff for a long time as as a journalist, and we've been friends for years because I worked with Brian Usna, and so we have a long history together on the other side of things. And when he showed up on set and he just transformed into Siringo, it was just a joy working with that man.
Can't wait
he's
to see it.
so damn good in this film. He's so good.
Love westerns.
Yeah, and it's a great cast. Jalone Vanover, who was actually in my first movie, Boo, he plays Sundance. Russ Urgel plays Butch. Dee Wallace is in it again because I love working with Dee. But I think it's going to be surprising, and there's a lot of history, obviously, to Butch Cassidy because of the Redford and Newman movie. But I think we're multiple generations removed that we kind of had free reign to kind of do our own thing with it. And that's the thing we talked about, being a director, getting a chance to do different things in different worlds. And I just had a blast making that film. And
I can't imagine. That's where'd you shoot that at? Was that in California or
New Mexico and California?
Okay, cool. All right, and the other western you mentioned that you directed?
Yeah, no, it's the same story. It's basically
back-to-back stories. Okay.
Yeah, part one and part two. So the first one's Butch Cassidy and the Wild Bunch, and the second movie will be called Butch versus Sundance.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And they're coming out separate or around?
Separate. Yeah, okay. So I think the first one's December, and I think the second one will come out, I believe, February or March. Okay, there'll be a little bit of time between the two of them.
Definitely keep an eye out for those. I love a good western. It's been a while since I've seen one that so very cool. Anything else on the slate? Anything else on the pipeline? Or that's a lot. You said you're doing something right now, right?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to start another film in the fall. That's a horror film, which I can't talk too much about, but it's more of an interface horror film, which is going to be kind of fun. It's cool. I wrote the story for it, and a buddy of mine who I've known for years wrote it, and I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun project.
Cool. All right, so this is one of the final questions I always ask every guest. I ask for, you have given great words of wisdom already, but I always just say we have a lot of aspiring filmmakers in the midst of it right now, doing things independently to watch the show. So can you give some advice, whether uplifting or not, for all the people that are watching? This is a tough business and there's a lot of hurdles to take, but just some words of advice, uplifting or not, for our audience, please.
No, you just can't give up. If you really loved it, there's a lot of people that want to make movies, but they don't realize how hard it is. And a lot of if you have money and you can kind of rest on that, you can kind of take your time and do whatever you want. But a lot of us come from places where we don't have the money or we don't have the resources, and so you have to kind of hustle and find ways of making it an industry. And so I've learned a lot by being a crew member, being a PA, doing makeup effects, getting second unit. And you have to constantly keep doing different things, and you can't go, well, this is the way it's going to be. I'm going to go make $200 million movie right off the bat. You have to continue to perfect your craft, and you have to get good at it as much as you possibly can. And that's one of the things of getting to do these different projects, is I get to flex different directing muscles. I guess I'm a horror director, but I'm also a Western director or a thriller director. And you can't be afraid of doing that. If it scares you, go for it. Like doing a pirate musical with musical numbers, that's pretty out there and pretty crazy. You're doing a Western, which I've never done before. That's pretty crazy. But you bring yourself to it. Find the things that excite you, and make it interesting, and then go for it. But don't, you can't give up, but you also have to be practical about it, and you have to, you have to take risks and take chances. And you could play it safe if you want, but thing is, it's not going to challenge you. And also the other thing is, unfortunately, the weird part about this business is that everybody wants you to fail. I don't mean that in a negative sense, but there's just such a lot of hate on the internet, and no one really appreciates what it takes to do projects. It's whether it's a big budget or small budget, and so support your filmmakers. If you have a group of people, support what they're doing, and they'll support you in return. Because that's the only way for interesting stories to thrive and survive, is you got to be supportive. It's not like, oh, this person's going to get ahead of me in the business. It's like, no. I love it when somebody that I work with moves on to bigger things. I love it when you see a PA move up and is now suddenly an AC, or whatever they end up doing. That's the thing you want to. It's paying it forward. I didn't have access to anything. And through some really generous people, Brent Freeman, screenwriter, who got me on the Necronomicon as a PA, Brian Musna, who I knew as a journalist, that took a chance on me and made me his effects supervisor, Dean Devlin, who gave me a ton of opportunities. I think that that's what you have to do. I call it couch karma, and that's a whole other long story. Where you stay on someone's couch and to move to LA, and then when you move down, you let someone else stay on the couch to let them go and work on a project. We have to support everybody. And look, you may not like everything someone does. You also can't take things personally. People go, well, people rip on Sharknado all the time. It's like, yeah, but people are talking about it. I was a journalist. As long as people are watching the stuff, it's like everybody will take away what they take away with. But I'm proud of the films I've worked on, and I am probably more qualified and more vicious to rip apart my own movies than anything anybody could ever come up with. So when I'm in the edit bay, the stuff I yell at myself for, I'm already there. I'm over it. So have confidence in yourself. Learn. Try to create things that mean something to you, and also know that what you create could affect somebody. And so horror movies, I wanted to scare people, but then with Sharknado, I realized I made people happy, and that actually meant something that really struck a nerve with me. And then so with Nyx, there's a lot going on in there that that we really wanted to say some stuff about, trauma and addiction, and there's some stuff in there that I hope that people see themselves in it, or see something that maybe it helps them see the light, even though it's a horror movie. It's not a preachy movie. But it takes you down a path of going, I relate to that, and maybe that's the paying it forward. So that's my 2 cents. Just keep doing what you do and believe in yourself, and find a way to create, whether it's writing, whether it's poetry, whether it's music or movies. Always find a way to create. If someone gives you an opportunity and they go, look, I got $50. Do you want to go do this thing? And you go, and it looks like something interesting, do it. You can't be too proud. Go and learn. That's the most important thing. And then, that's why we do this, because we're creative souls.
Yeah. Beautifully spoken. Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more. Support is so key. I've always done it from the beginning of my career. And again, you don't a lot of times get it back, unfortunately, because there are people that you hear through the grapevine see you as competition. And I'm like, I'm not your competition if you live down the block from me. I'm trying to be like Anthony C. Ferrante. I'm trying to be like Robert Rodriguez or John Carpenter or Wes Craven, rest in peace. But I'm not really trying to do something better than, and I'm not trying to do something better than you. I love your work that I've seen. I love like I said, I like when I see people. I remember back in the early MySpace era, I remember seeing your name around. And again, I didn't know at the time that you were attached to those scarecrow things or whatever. But again, I remember we would share, we message each other way back during that time frame, and you had uplifting things to say. I did too. I was just starting out, and you were wherever you were at that junction of your career. But again, it's always to me been about support, because anybody that lifts up somebody, I mean, I have some friends that have gotten to a certain pinnacle, but a lot of them reach down and say, hey, when there's something for you that you can write, I got you. or if I can get you on this production, I got you. And those people that actually believe it are ones that I've continued to collaborate with, and I always support their work. And I'll even if people don't, I always think if I see something good like Nick's or even the Sharknado films, I have a great time with them. Like I don't look at them and say, oh, this is crazy or whatever, because you understand what it was from the beginning, and you were blessed to continue through 6 films. Some filmmakers out there are making a comedy and don't understand that it's a comedy. Like they really think it's a serious horror film. And I'm like, maybe if you understood that, maybe like it would be a phenomenon or it would be a cult classic. But again, like I said, I think that's very key what you said. Support your fellow independent artists and any artists that are out there of any type, because paying it forward always gets you good karma, because there's always somebody looking at yours and they could say, hey, I checked out your film, and then maybe that could be the thing that could catapult you into getting to do bigger projects. So very good advice. Mr. Ridgely, any questions for our guests?
You caught me mid-drink. I apologize. One thing that I thought was really cool with Anthony being a journalist and with Fangoria, what I would love to do someday, and Anthony, please let me know if this is completely out of the question. We've had Tony Timpone on the network. Would it be possible, do you think, to get like a Fangoria panel on the network sometime?
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's so many great people that got their start working for Fangoria, and they're still there. And, Mike Ingold and Tony, and then Mick Garris wrote for Fangoria back in the day. Abby Bernstein, who I still talk to, work with. She's a great journalist. She still does stuff for Fangoria. There's just, it's a tight knit group of, it was a very tight knit group of people, and it was. Tony is another one of those that so I was this kid. I'm like, can I write for you, Tony? And I sent him some stuff I did for the newspapers. He gave me a shot, and so I would be in Northern California, and he'd give me a couple assignments. I go down to movie sets and learn a lot. That was better than the film school I went to, because I was actually on sets, seeing how things are ran, and it opened up my eyes. So Fangoria was just a great litmus of a test of just talent, and also the people that they champion. It goes back to that thing. That's why I think I say that, paying it forward. It's like when I was a journalist, if I like something and, I want to cover this movie, or I want to tell people this was great. I saw a John Vulich, rest in peace, really, really wonderful friend and great artist. I went over to Optic Nerve one day, and he goes, yeah, I was working on this pilot presentation for this thing for Buffy. Remember that movie? It's like, yeah. It's like, he gave it to me, and I watched it. I'm going, oh my God, this is amazing. And I remember calling Tony going, we have to cover Buffy. It's like, no, really? Like, no, we have to cover Buffy. This thing is amazing. And then I went to the TCAs, and I got to interview everybody there, and the thing blew up. But that pilot, which didn't even have Allison Hannigan at the time in it. I don't know how many people saw that. That was like a 30-minute thing that Joss Whedon did. It was like that first episode, but compressed. It was just like, this is going to be phenomenal. And so, you see that kernel of something, you go, oh my gosh, this is going to be so cool. So it's that thrill.
Became one of the greatest TV shows of all time, like out there.
Exactly.
So there you go. You never know. I've heard that story even from Uncle Creepy Steve Barton, like about Paranormal Activity and certain things he pushed to Blumhouse and different people for years. And Steve was a great friend of mine.
Steve is another one of those guys that he supported all my stuff, and I'm so proud of him with the Terrifier movies. And he is one of a kind. He deserves much more credit than he gets for what he's done with the horror journalism, and always supported the filmmakers. He's just a genuine guy.
Yes, I love him. He's one of my great friends, and I hope you're watching. I know his girl Danielle's watching, but couldn't have said it better myself, because again, he's supported me in my career for years through his journalism, and that's why I wanted to talk about your journalism, the stuff you've done tonight, even more because of people like Steve, and it's cool to hear about
see
people like
Terrifier 2 in theaters in a couple weeks.
Yes, October 6th, Terrifier 2. I got my ticket. I'll be watching it with Steve and Danielle and a group of some of the cast and crew. So so go support independent horror, just like go watch Nick's on Amazon and every other platform you can watch it on. So I just wanted to. I did have one question, if you don't mind. A friend of mine asked, if you don't mind, Anthony. She said she loves Triple Threat, which I know stars Scout Taylor Compton, who is an amazing actress. Her question is that how difficult was it to shoot her like green screen, multiple three of her in the same frame sometimes with that film?
So this goes to again the thing of like, I never get things that are simple, which is what I like. It's always something a little more complicated. And again, the full circle thing, Pierre David was a producer on that. Pierre had, did all those Cronenberg movies in the early 80s. I worked on the Dentist movies as an effects supervisor that Pierre was a producer on, and then later the Wishmaster too. And Pierre's always been just really generous. And when I was doing these little thrillers, he would call me up and say, "I just saw your thriller. You did such a great job." And it was just, I'm really, really genuinely nice man. And so he had this project, this thing called Triple Threat. And he goes, they've never done a triplet movie. They're always doing the twins, but they've never done a triplet movie. Would you be interested in doing a triplet movie? And I'm going, would the same actress be playing all triplets? It's like, yes, and we want that because you know how to do this visual effects stuff. We want you to do this. And I'm like, I'm in, because it was a challenge. And known Scout for a while, and she's an amazing actress. And when they cast her, I'm going, okay, we're in good shape. But yes, that movie was a really, really complex thing, imagining that you have to have an actress who takes an hour to change into each character.
Wow.
And having to shoot that and make sure the visual effects work. So one of the keys was I wanted to have another actress play the role opposite her that wasn't just a double, but that was reading all the lines. And so we hired Sarah French, who you can probably know from the Blind movies. She came in again as a favor for myself and Michael Sue, who was the DP. And so we did some stuff that was very complicated, with the motion control arms and a few of the shots. And then there was a lot of split screen, and there's a lot of really tricky seamless things. But the reason why it works is because Scout knew every single one of those characters. And I was just amazed. There was one time, she's so good about, she does it and then she's done, like she's the character and then she sheds it. So there was something where one of the characters, Trinity, she was doing the thing, and I would begin to edit going, she's walking like her. She did not forget at any given point who she was playing at that moment. And when she's very goofy, so she'd be something really serious, intense, and then she'd be like, "It's over." It's like blah, and it's like, and I go, "How do you do that?" It's like, well, no, I memorize the stuff, I do it, and then after it's over, it goes out, and I'm on to something else. And she's so good. If people get a chance to see Triple Threat, really, really great little thriller, and she's the star of that thing. She nailed it. So props to her.
Yes.
And it was very, very complicated. It took a long time to do. You'd have to, when you do a scene, you have to like freeze, and you can't touch the cameras, walk away. So I've never had a movie where I'm just kind of sitting around, noodling on my phone or talking to people. It's like, okay, we got to do this. We got 12 pages. Bam, 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 bam. You're just like, okay, what do we do? Hey, I can have a conversation with you.
Awesome. Oh, great answer. Great. Yeah. And that Scout Taylor Compton is fantastic talent. So Mr. Ridgely, your weekly question to end.
Oh, yes, please. Yes. Anthony, where can we find you on social media and your upcoming projects to follow up on, please?
So Twitter, AC Ferrante, ACFERRANTE. Instagram, Anthony C. Ferrante. I think you can find me on Facebook. Nick's you can find on Amazon for rent and purchase, and Apple and all those platforms. There you go. And a lot of the other films are just floating out there. Tubi, you can watch Time Pirates. It's out now, and which will be on Tubi in December. So that's kind of. I wish I could say I'm on TikTok, but I haven't quite cracked that yet. I don't think you want to see me dancing or miming to something. I think it'll be a little disturbing.
A lot of us have tried, but we haven't. No, we haven't mastered that yet. So I completely understand.
And then the trailer is on YouTube. Just type in Nick's movie trailer. You guys can check that out. But again, Nick's I'm really proud of. I really want people to see it. It's such a different film. It definitely is what I wanted to try to do with a horror film for a very long time, and we didn't have to worry about anything because we already had the financing. We knew the mandate, which was we need to have a creature and some effects, and other than that, we kind of made a movie that was very personal. And props to Woodrow and James and Skylar. We worked really well together, and they supported the craziness that we were trying to go for, and we're all very proud of the movie. And I think it's gonna slowly kind of have the audience discover it, because we don't have a studio behind it. It's a truly independent horror film, and we need to see more independent horror films that aren't sequels or remakes. We need to see independent horror
original
films
ideas, and exactly.
Look at Terrifier. That was an original movie that blew up, and they got to make a sequel. It's very rare for that to happen, and we have to support these movies.
Absolutely, yeah. I couldn't have said it better. Yeah, that's those organic things that grow and audiences find or assisted with us supporting them. So
and also we look back at the stuff that the movies that I think we were all big '80s babies that loved the Carpenter and the Cronenberg stuff. Think about the stuff that they did. Think about what Carpenter did. Think about what Cronenberg and Raimi or Craven, even John Landis with American Werewolf. These were original ideas. They got made mainly at a studio level. But even Cronenberg's Canadian movies are really out there, but you don't see a lot of that. And so you're not having people fund those at a studio level anymore. So they now truly have to be independent, and we have to make these things successful so more of these things can come, and new voices and fresh voices, challenge you.
I agree. I think the voices that have kind of grabbed me, whether it was a different one that Take You did with your Sharknado films and Boo, but directors like Alexander Aja with High Tension, and and then the things he did, and like The Void, and there's a lot of things that you find kind of just organically through word of mouth, whether on horror websites or whatever. And I watch, and I'm like, this should be in theaters instead of this film over here that is an IP that is kind of outdated. And again, but it all does, like you said, it does all start from support and just telling people about films like Nick's and even your other ones. Like I want to Triple Threat. Was that that's on television, but was that Lifetime or?
Yeah, I think it was a Lifetime, but I think it's also, I think they changed it. I think it's called Framed by My Sister or something like that. I mean, all these the titles kind of get all morphed and changed over time, so it's hard to discover them. But it's just look up my name and Scout Taylor Thompson, and you'll find it somewhere.
Okay, yeah, because I know there is another Triple Threat that's a big action, martial arts film. So it's almost like don't look for the other title, or look up, like you said, Anthony C. Ferrante. But again, Anthony, thank you for spending some of your Friday night here on the network with us. It's been great. I know Joe appreciates it. Our audience does. Continued blessings with your career, and everybody go out, watch Nick's, rent it. Like I said, well spent money. I did last night on Amazon Prime. It's on a bunch of platforms. It's a great watch. And again, watch it because it's a good story and it's great emotion. So go out and support this filmmaker so he can continue making cool horror films or any types of films. So, Mr. Ridgely. Hope Rosenberg says, not typically a horror fan, but love Nick's. I cried. People should check it out.
Hi, Hope. Thank you.
There you go. Like I said, this little girl, keep an eye out for her. What'd you say her name was again?
Nisha.
Nisha.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Her.
I think I just butchered her last name, but we'll go into the MMA ring and she'll
Nice. But yeah, her, D. Wallace, Michael Pere, like the whole cast, fantastic. So yeah, thank you again, Anthony. We appreciate you. You have a great weekend, and we'll keep an eye out for your work in the near future. And definitely those westerns that are coming out that represent Butch and the Sundance Kid. That's going to be amazing. So
when Jeffrey Combs, again, just to watch Jeffrey just be this badass Pinkerton detective. I mean, no, everybody's gonna be surprised. And we all know how great he is, but to see him in this role, every day I was just like in awe. Like he's so good. By the way, just another thing,
Sure.
I talked about Dee Wallace with Nix. We were in the Downtown LA Film Festival, and she won a Best Actor award for her role in Nix. And we all have known how great Dee is over the years. And she just went all out in this movie, and again, it just reminds everybody how amazing she is.
She is one that she's continued to work consistently, but she's one of our greatest living actresses, no doubt. I mean, and she's been for decades too. Like, I mean, going back to The Howling and Cujo and all the great films she's in, but she's still bringing it. That too was a pleasure to watch last night too. Just the emotion she gives in this film is just top level. So again, people go out and support. Actually, go. All you got to do is sit in your living room and flip through your VOD and find Nix and support not just Anthony C. Ferrante's work, but support great horror that's out there. So,
well,
all right, again,
if you knock it off, I will.
Hey, don't do that. Go support it. Go platforms. It was $5.99. Easy, and again, you get a great story that to watch and keep for at least the time that you rent it for. So do that and don't pirate, please. So, all right, everybody, thank you, Anthony, for coming on the network. We appreciate it. You have a great weekend. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good luck with all your projects, and thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Anthony. It's been a pleasure.
Hope to cross paths with you work-wise in the near future, my friend. Take care. Take care. Bye-bye now. Goodbye.
Man, what an amazing guest. Holy crap.
Yeah, good dude.
I mean, all the people he's worked with. I mean, from his start as a journalist to a director, and wow.
That's a show in itself. I mean, I could have talked to journalism stories
this
for an
could
hour.
Have been this could have been 4 shows, 5 shows.
Yeah, and I loved your question.
A miniseries.
And I loved your question about Fango too. That'd be a great panel, like for him and Capone and even mixing it up, like for journalism, to have Steve on or whatever, and other people that are involved in it. Because I know a couple people I've met recently that write for the magazine and write for other like online magazines that are well known, like Horror Hound and different things. So yes, that'd be a great panel that I'd love to we should maybe put together a special upcoming for that, because that would be very informative, because the stories that they can tell about the cats that they've talked to over time would be timeless and priceless.
Well, you know, the problem that's amongst us these days is, I mean, kids don't know what a magazine is.
It's true. Everything's online.
Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're into their iPads, their iPhones, their computers, tablets, whatever. And I mean, do you know a kid who bought a magazine recently?
Probably not. And I mean, and I have it. I used to buy them all the time too. But I mean, unfortunately, when I do come across them on a newsstand, a lot of them are so they're priced differently now. It'll be $14.95 for a thin magazine of information that is right there online now. So it's much different than when I grew up, where you could find a magazine for $2.95 or
so. This is where I have an issue with physical media. Okay, I mean, I explained to you in the past that I sold all my DVDs, Blu-rays, and CDs, that kind of physical media. But for like comic books and magazines, I need that in my hand.
Yeah.
I can't do that on a phone. I can't do that on my TV or whatever, a streamer. That I wanted. I mean,
I agree with you totally. I remember when I had first time I ever had an article in Fango magazine. which had something to do with Uncle Creepy himself, Steve Martin. And there's a photo in it, and the movie underneath, and a little blurb about the film. And again, I took copies of that magazine and spent all the money I had that day just buying them, because I was proud to be in this magazine I grew up loving as a kid. And I wasn't on the cover, but I was in that magazine. So I went around and took photos of it and printed them on MySpace or whatever it was. And again, because you're right, there's something to holding things, just like books. People love
Right.
Kindles now and all the different things, but there's something to laying or sitting and just reading a good book that you can't get out of just kind of sitting and looking at your computer screen. Same with even scripts. A lot of actors I know, well, one of their, like William Forsythe, his requirement is if he agrees to do a film, he wants a physical copy of a script. Mm-hmm. And I understand it, because he makes notes. You kind of do a lot of different things with it, and there's something to holding that physical media, like you said, in your hands, and it'll never die.
And we got a couple of comments from Tim. We have Steve recently contributed to Fangoria.
Yes, he did. He's everywhere.
And he said horror fans are collectors, and Fangoria does very well with their physical copies.
Yeah, they're doing special editions now. I think I talked to one of the writers for it recently, and she said they're only doing like a couple different editions, either per quarter or something of that nature. I apologize if I got it incorrect, but they're not putting out every monthly or anymore, but they're putting out special editions. So then it makes it even rarer, because the information they put in it is information that some of it, which interviews are things that you're not getting that are out into the social media realm or whatever. So we're smart.
We're almost in October.
Yes.
October is a very exciting month for obviously the horror fans, and the Indie Escape is kind of 50 to 65% horror. So what do we have coming up on IOU? Can you
I can't divulge like specifics yet, because I had to talk to a couple people to confirm, but there will be some will be at least 2 or 3 really, really amazing horror icons that'll be on IOU in the upcoming month. And it might actually span into the following month too, because this is a month that is bogged down with a lot of horror conventions and things of that nature. So grabbing some of these icons on a Friday night isn't the easiest in October.
Just any day in October, it's any day in October.
But even we plan on a Terrifier 2 a cool panel that we'll do upcoming, probably in early November. But again, it's because these conventions are almost every weekend now in different parts of the world. And I do say the world because there's things in the UK and other countries just as much as there are here in the States. So October 13th, Rock and Roll Nightmare Reunion, hosted by our man Timothy Melican. Yes, that'll be the first one.
There's another.
Yes, October 20th, Trick or Treat Reunion. Yes. And that's going to be another banger. That's another one. I have seen that one. I have not seen the first film, Rock and Roll Nightmares. So I got to do some
it's
homework
hard to
watch
find.
that.
I tried finding it.
Yes.
And the only place I could find it was on YouTube.
Well, there
Rock
you
and
go.
Roll Nightmare. Yeah.
There you go.
So Brandon, I'm going to hold you responsible for telling folks where we can be found, because I tend to get these symbols kind of screwed up.
All righty then. Like, subscribe, share. We are on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and of course, IG, Instagram. Please go follow us on any of these platforms, and please send us messages. Please send us messages, anything like that. If you have any ideas about guests upcoming, please let us know. Any no guess is a stupid suggestion. So even throughout the shows, if you have any ideas about things, please send in to Joe or myself, and we listen to everything. And so we want to try to continue to give the best shows that we can. I do a lot of work every week to try to make IOU the best possible show that it can possibly be, and hopefully people
those tribute videos, man,
are responding. So those I gotta at some point make a compilation of I can't see how they react to the videos, but maybe just some of the reactions when they come on, some of the looks on their face when they take a blast from the past. But yeah, we appreciate everybody that supports Tim tonight, TK, Hope, anybody else that watched. We thank you, and yeah, it's thank you to Anthony C. Ferrante for coming on tonight. Another great guest. Please go support Nick's great independent horror film, D. Wallace, Michael Pare, Amazon Prime, a bunch of other platforms. You will not be disappointed. Go support Nick's, and also go watch the other films of Anthony. Go back and watch Boo, watch Hansel and Gretel. Go back and watch Scarecrow, because I love Scarecrow. It introduced me to a good friend of mine that was on the show, my first female guest on the show, Tiffany Shepis, who I'll give a shout out to right now. And yeah, so but again, Anthony's been doing great work for decades, and we're proud that he's part of the Indie Escape family right now. So yeah, any shows this weekend for you, Mr. Ridgely?
Nobody has contacted me yet. David Lee Madison, he is going to be in Massachusetts this weekend, so there will be no End of the Night. Other than that, I haven't heard anything about next week.
Okay, well then stay tuned for details about upcoming episodes, and I will let everybody know as soon as I get the word from my next really cool guest. So with that being said, as I always close the show, believe in the power of yourself and the right others. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace.
Peace.